You've probably heard that index funds are the smartest, simplest way to build wealth. Low cost. Passive. Set it and forget it. And that's mostly true. But there's one number that most people check, misread, and then trust completely, when they shouldn't. That number is the expense ratio. And before you click away thinking you already know this, I promise you, what we're about to cover is not what you've heard before. When someone starts investing for the first time, they're usually told one thing above everything else: keep your costs low. And so they go looking for funds with the lowest expense ratio they can find. They find a fund at 0.03%, maybe even 0%. They feel smart. They invest. They move on. But here's the thing nobody tells you. The expense ratio you see on the label is not always the actual cost you're paying. And in some cases, the real cost, the one that silently drains your wealth over decades, isn't reflected in that number at all. This isn't a technicality. For long-term investors building toward financial independence, this gap between the stated cost and the real cost can quietly cost thousands of dollars. So let's fix that. Why most people get this wrong. The expense ratio feels like a complete picture. It's one clean number. It's right there on the fund page. It says 0.03% and you think, that's basically free. What else is there to know? But that number only tells you what the fund officially charges to cover its management and operating costs. It says nothing about what actually happens to your returns once the fund starts buying and selling stocks, lending out shares, or dealing with Wall Street's reaction to its every move. Think of it like a restaurant that charges you for the meal, but doesn't tell you about the corkage fee, the service charge, or the fact that sometimes the kitchen sells your reservation to another customer before you even sit down. The expense ratio is real. It matters. But it's one layer of a deeper story. Let's start with what the expense ratio actually is. Every fund, whether it's an index fund, an ETF, or an actively managed mutual fund, charges a fee to cover its operating costs. That fee is expressed as a percentage of your investment, taken out every year automatically. You never receive a bill. The money simply isn't there when you go to count it. A fund with a 1% expense ratio on a $10,000 investment costs you $100 a year. A fund at 0.03% costs you $3 a year on that same amount. That difference sounds tiny, but compounded over 30 years, it isn't. The reason index funds can charge so little is that they're passive. There's no team of analysts picking stocks, no constant trading. The fund just mirrors an index, like the S&P 500, and holds whatever companies are in it. Less work means less cost. This is why index funds became the foundation of personal finance education. Jack Bogle built Vanguard on this idea, and he was right. Lower costs genuinely do translate to better long-term returns the vast majority of the time. But the story doesn't stop at the expense ratio. And this is where it gets interesting. Real-world examples. The first thing most investors don't know, some index funds actually earn back more than their expense ratio charges, and the real cost ends up being less than what's advertised. Here's how. Large index funds hold enormous quantities of stocks, and those stocks can be lent out temporarily to other investors, specifically, to short sellers who want to borrow them. The fund charges a fee for lending the shares, and that income flows back into the fund. This is called securities lending. Vanguard, for example, uses securities lending income, participation in investment syndicate offerings, and other proprietary techniques to offset costs. The result? A fund advertised at 0.04% might functionally cost you closer to 0.01%, or in some years, effectively nothing. The label says one price. The reality is lower. That's a good surprise. But there are bad surprises too. The second thing most investors miss. The expense ratio you see today might not be the expense ratio you pay tomorrow. Some funds advertise a very low rate because the fund company has temporarily waived part of the fee, often to attract new investors. This is called a fee waiver, and it has an expiration date. The prospectus, that document almost nobody reads, shows two numbers, the gross expense ratio and the net expense ratio. The net is what you pay after the waiver. The gross is what you'll pay when it expires. A fund could show 0.03% today and quietly revert to 0.2% within 2 years. That's nearly a 7-fold increase in costs. And because it happens slowly, most investors never notice. Before you invest in any fund, look for both numbers. If there's a fee waiver, find out when it ends. The third thing, and this one surprises almost everyone, there are costs built into index fund investing that no expense ratio will ever capture. And they come from Wall Street knowing exactly what index funds have to do, and when. Every major index, the S&P 500, the Russell 2000, the Nasdaq 100, periodically updates its list of companies. Stocks get added, stocks get removed. This is called reconstitution. When reconstitution happens, every fund tracking that index has to buy the new additions and sell the removals, all at roughly the same time. Sophisticated traders know this. They see the announcement, they buy those stocks before the index funds are forced to, and then they sell them back to the index funds at a higher price. The index fund pays more than it should. You absorb that difference. Research has found that these forced trading costs can run into the hundreds of basis points, far beyond what any expense ratio shows. A fund with an expense ratio of 0.03% may be losing far more through this invisible mechanism, especially in smaller stock indexes where individual stocks carry more weight. This doesn't mean index funds are bad. It means the expense ratio alone doesn't tell you everything. The fourth thing, a zero expense ratio might be the most misunderstood number in personal finance. Fidelity made headlines when they launched index funds with a 0% expense ratio. Completely free, no charge whatsoever. And investors poured in, understandably. But here's the question worth asking. How does the fund company make money if they charge nothing? The answer, in part, is securities lending, lending out the holdings in the fund to short sellers and earning a fee. The fund company keeps a portion of that revenue. Your shares are still being lent. The business model still generates income. It's just that the income flows differently than a direct fee. That's not necessarily a problem, but it's worth knowing. Free isn't the same as without cost. It's a different structure. The fifth thing, for anyone who plans to rebalance their portfolio, check the spread, not just the expense ratio. When you buy or sell shares of an ETF, you don't transact directly with the fund. You buy from and sell to other investors on the open market, and there is always a gap between the price someone is willing to sell at and the price someone is willing to buy at. That gap is called the bid-ask spread. Every transaction you make has this cost baked in. The expense ratio never mentions it. For someone who buys once and holds forever, it barely matters. But for anyone who rebalances regularly, shifting money between funds, adjusting allocations, responding to life changes, the spread can compound into a real drag on returns over time. This is one reason why sometimes a fund with a slightly higher expense ratio but a much tighter spread can actually cost you less in practice. The label number and the real number can diverge depending on how you invest. So what do you actually do with all of this? Step 1, look at the expense ratio, but don't stop there. Check whether the fund publishes both a gross and a net expense ratio. If there's a waiver, find when it expires. Step 2, look at the tracking difference. This is a separate number that shows how closely the fund's actual returns match the index it tracks. A fund with a 0.04% expense ratio but strong securities lending income might have a tracking difference of 0% or even positive. That means you're getting better value than the label suggests. Step 3, if you're investing in an ETF, check the average bid-ask spread. Most brokerage platforms display this. A tighter spread means lower transaction costs every time you buy or sell. Step 4, consider which index the fund tracks. Funds tracking the S&P 500 have reconstitution events that are relatively controlled. Funds tracking the Russell 2000, the small cap index, have historically been more vulnerable to front-running around reconstitution because the changes are more predictable and the affected stocks are more sensitive to sudden demand. Step 5, don't let the expense ratio be your only filter. It's an excellent starting point, but it's a starting point. Here's the thing that changes how you think about this. The expense ratio is the only investing cost that's fully visible, standardized, and guaranteed to affect your returns. That's why it matters. That's why you should always check it. But the financial industry has built an ecosystem around the idea that the expense ratio is the whole story, because it's easier to market a simple number than to explain everything underneath it. The investors who build real wealth over time aren't just looking for the lowest number. They're looking for the best value, which sometimes means a fund at 0.05% with tight spreads and strong securities lending income beats a fund at 0% with less transparency. The goal was never to pay the least. The goal is to keep as much of your money working for you as possible. Those aren't always the same thing. Index funds remain one of the most powerful tools for long-term wealth building. Compound interest working over decades. Diversification across hundreds or thousands of companies. Low cost, passive exposure to the entire stock market. The fundamentals are sound, But becoming a smarter investor doesn't mean abandoning index funds. It means looking one layer deeper than most people do. Check the expense ratio. Then check the tracking difference. Look for fee waivers. Understand what index the fund tracks and how it handles reconstitution. Look at the spread if you're investing through an ETF. These aren't complex steps. They take 5 minutes. And they make the difference between investing well and investing with your eyes open. If you want to keep building your understanding of index funds, ETFs, and long-term wealth building, subscribe to Finance Lab and turn on notifications.